Welcome to the European Association for Higher Education Advancement's YouTube and podcast channel.
Oh, wow.
Today,
Great to be here.
we are taking a deep dive into the world of first-year teachers and the common mistakes they make. We'll be unpacking an article from the EAEEA itself,
Okay.
featuring 4 educators reflecting on their early teaching experiences.
Awesome.
Now, you might not be a teacher,
Right.
but trust me, these insights are relevant to anyone navigating a new field.
Absolutely.
We've all been the newbie at some point, right?
Absolutely. This article isn't just for educators. It's about those universal experiences we all share. The learning curve, the inevitable blunders, and how those setbacks can actually become incredible growth opportunities.
Okay, let's jump right in. The first mistake these educators highlighted is something I think we've all struggled with at some point: not asking for help. Jessica Altonian, who works with Pen Pal Schools, talks about feeling this pressure to do everything herself, especially teaching in a high-needs environment, which basically means a school with a high percentage of students facing challenges like poverty or learning disabilities. She wishes she had advocated for more support from her administration instead of trying to reinvent the wheel.
It's a classic trap, especially when you're eager to prove yourself. There's this fear of appearing incompetent, or maybe even a sense of pride that makes you think, I should be able to handle this on my own. But the reality is, everyone needs support, especially when they're starting out. What's fascinating is that Jessica later realized there were tons of resources available. She just didn't know about them because she never asked.
So true. It's like we get so focused on showing we can do the job, we forget that part of the job is knowing when to ask for guidance. What are some practical tips you could offer our listener for overcoming that hesitation to ask for help?
First, reframe it in your mind. Asking for help isn't weakness. It's actually a sign of intelligence. It shows you're committed to learning and doing the best job possible. Second, be specific. Instead of just saying, I need help, try, can you show me how to, or do you have any resources on? The more specific you are, the more likely you are to get the help you need.
Those are great tips. I think a lot of us could benefit from that, no matter what field we're in. Now, the second mistake these educators discussed is all about communication, specifically parent communication. Monica Simpson, a health teacher, shares how she evolved from minimal parent contact to creating a whole communication ecosystem, a website, social media, weekly newsletters, the works.
This is such a powerful example of how clear and consistent communication can transform relationships and outcomes. Think about it, whether you're a teacher, a manager, or even just working on a team project, transparency is key. It builds trust and collaboration.
And it's not just about sending out grades. Monica shared examples of student projects, classroom activities, and even gave parents a behind-the-scenes look at what their kids were learning. I'm betting that saved her a ton of time answering individual emails and phone calls.
Absolutely. It's a proactive approach that sets clear expectations and keeps everyone on the same page. Now let's move on to mistake number 3, trying to be friends, not a teacher. Patty Askew, a math teacher who started teaching at just 22, was only a few years older than her high school students. Can you imagine trying to establish authority in that situation?
That must have been so challenging.
Right.
It's like walking a tightrope between being approachable and maintaining that teacher-student boundary.
Exactly. And Patty talks about getting the classic advice, don't smile till Christmas, which highlights that traditional approach to establishing authority. But she quickly realized it wasn't that simple.
I think a lot of people, especially when they're new to a leadership role, struggle with finding that balance. They want to be liked, so they might let things slide or avoid difficult conversations. Have you ever encountered that in your work?
Oh, absolutely. It's a common challenge, especially for those who are naturally empathetic and relationship-oriented. But effective leadership isn't about being everyone's best friend. It's about earning respect, providing guidance, and setting clear expectations. And sometimes that means having tough conversations.
So true. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do as a leader is to be firm and direct, even if it's not the most popular decision in the moment.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing what's best for the group or the situation, even if it means having those difficult conversations. Now, are you ready for mistake number 4? This one is a bit of a doozy and delves into some ethical considerations in teaching.
Hit me with it. I'm all ears.
All right, buckle up. Steve Sontag, a high school teacher, shares a story that raises some serious questions about experimental approaches in education. He was pressured by his vice principal to participate in a behavior management project that focused heavily on negative reinforcement. Instead of rewarding good behavior, it was all about punishing bad behavior.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
That seems so counterintuitive. I mean, we all know that positive reinforcement is much more effective, right?
I think so. And as you can imagine, this project backfired spectacularly. Steve said the students were confused, parents were up in arms, and ultimately he was dismissed from his position.
Wow, talk about a trial by fire. But it sounds like he landed on his feet. He went on to teach in another district, even became a mentor teacher and won awards.
Yes, he did. This story highlights the importance of advocating for your beliefs, especially when it comes to ethical practices. It's a reminder that we all have a responsibility to speak up if we see something that's harmful or wrong, even if it means going against authority.
Absolutely. It takes courage, but standing up for what you believe in is crucial, especially when it impacts others. It makes you wonder, what could that vice principal have done differently?
That's a great question. This situation highlights the importance of evidence-based practices in education. Not all innovative ideas are good ideas, and experimenting with students' well-being should never be taken lightly. Administrators, especially, need to be aware of the research and ensure they are implementing strategies that are proven to be effective and beneficial for students.
It's like, before we implement any new approach or program, we should be asking, what does the research say? Is there evidence to support this? And most importantly, is it in the best interests of our students?
Exactly. It's about making informed decisions, not just jumping on the latest trend. And it's about creating a culture where teachers feel empowered to speak up and share their concerns.
So to recap, we've got 4 crucial lessons for these first-year teachers. Ask for help. Communicate clearly. Find that balance between being a friend and a leader. And always advocate for what you believe is right, especially when it comes to the well-being of those you're serving. That's a lot to unpack. What's standing out to you so far from these first 4 mistakes?
What strikes me is how relatable these experiences are, even outside of the classroom. We've all faced those challenges of navigating new environments, building relationships, and standing up for what we believe in. And I think that's what makes these stories so powerful. They remind us that we're not alone in these struggles.
So true. It's like we're all on this journey of learning and growth together.
Yeah,
And sometimes those missteps are the best teachers of all.
I couldn't agree more. Now, are you ready to dive into the second part of this article and uncover even more insights from these seasoned educators?
Absolutely. I'm eager to hear what other wisdom they have to share. But first, let's take a quick break to let our listener digest all this great information. We'll be back in a flash with more from our deep dive into first-year teacher mistakes.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the most common mistakes made by first-year teachers. We've already uncovered some valuable insights, but there's more to explore in the second half of this EEEA article. Ready to continue our journey?
Absolutely. I'm eager to hear what other wisdom these experienced educators have to share. Where should we pick up?
Let's revisit Jessica Altunian's reflection on not asking for help. She mentioned feeling the need to create her own curriculum and classroom resources, which can be a common trap for new teachers.
I can see how that happens. You're full of enthusiasm and fresh ideas, so you want to create something unique and make your mark. But sometimes that can lead to reinventing the wheel when perfectly good resources already exist.
Exactly. And it's not just about using existing resources, it's also about tapping into the collective wisdom of more experienced colleagues. Mentorship can be such a game changer for new teachers.
So for our listener who might be feeling overwhelmed in a new role, what's a concrete step they can take today to start building that support network?
Simple. Identify someone you admire, maybe a senior colleague, a mentor in your field, or even someone outside your immediate workplace, and reach out to them. You could say, I'm really impressed with your work, and I'd love to pick your brain sometime about navigating the challenges of this field. People are usually flattered to be asked for advice, and you'd be surprised how willing they are to help.
That's a great tip. Sometimes just having someone to bounce ideas off of or offer a different perspective can make all the difference. Now, let's shift gears and revisit Monica Simpson's approach to parent communication, creating a website, social media pages, and a weekly newsletter that's going above and beyond to keep parents informed and engaged.
It's a brilliant strategy, and it's not just about the quantity of communication, it's about the quality. Monica focused on providing parents with valuable insights into their children's learning experience. She shared examples of student work, highlighted classroom activities, and even offered tips for parents to support their children's learning at home.
Imagine you're a parent, and instead of just seeing a letter grade on a report card, you get this weekly window into your child's classroom. You see photos of them engaged in learning, hear about the projects they're working on, and get a clear sense of what they're struggling with and excelling at. Wouldn't that make you feel more connected to your child's education?
Absolutely. And it also helps build trust and collaboration between teachers and parents. When parents feel informed and involved, they're more likely to be supportive and proactive in their child's learning journey.
It's a win-win for everyone involved. Now let's talk about Patty Askew's experience with navigating the delicate balance between being a friend and being a teacher. Remember, she started teaching high school when she was only a few years older than her students.
That's a tough situation. And it highlights a challenge that many young professionals face: how to establish authority without coming across as cold or unapproachable.
Have you ever been in a situation where you needed to establish yourself as a leader, but you also wanted to be seen as relatable and approachable? It's a tricky balance, right?
It definitely is. And Patty's story reminds us that there's no one-size-fits-all answer. It's about finding what works best for you, your personality, and the specific context you're in. Some people might be able to pull off the cool teacher vibe, while others might need to be more formal and structured in their approach.
What's important is to be authentic to yourself and your leadership style, while also being mindful of the boundaries and expectations of your role. Now, before we move on to our final mistake, I want to touch on something that stood out to me in Patty's story. Remember the advice she got? Don't smile until Christmas.
Yes, the classic old-school approach to establishing dominance in the classroom.
Right. But Patty quickly realized that wasn't going to work for her. And I think this is a valuable lesson for all of us. Just because something has always been done that way doesn't mean it's the best or only way. It's important to question traditional approaches and be willing to experiment with different strategies to find what works best for you and your unique circumstances.
Absolutely. And sometimes the most effective leaders are those who are willing to challenge the status quo and pave their own path.
Speaking of challenging the status quo, Steve Sontag's story about the negative reinforcement experiment certainly did that. It's a powerful reminder that we all have a responsibility to speak up when we see something that's harmful or wrong.
His experience also highlights the importance of evidence-based practices in education. We wouldn't prescribe a new medication without scientific research to back it up, right? The same principle applies to education. We need to be sure that the approaches we're using are actually effective and beneficial for students.
It's so easy to get caught up in the latest trends or fads. But we need to be critical thinkers and advocates for what's truly best for our students.
Exactly. And it's not just about blindly following the research, it's about using it as a guide and adapting it to fit the specific needs of our students and our classrooms.
So, to bring it back to our listener, how can they apply this principle of evidence-based practices in their own work or personal life?
It starts with being curious and asking questions. If someone suggests a new approach or strategy, don't just accept it at face value. Dig a little deeper. Ask, what's the research behind this? Is there evidence to support its effectiveness? And most importantly, how does this align with my own values and beliefs?
It's about being an informed and discerning consumer of information, whether we're talking about educational practices, health advice, or even just the latest productivity hack. Always question, always evaluate, and always prioritize what's truly best for you and those you serve.
Well said. Now, are you ready to delve into the final reflections from these remarkable educators? I'm particularly intrigued by their insights on navigating setbacks and fostering continuous growth.
Let's do it. I'm always up for a good dose of inspiration and practical advice. These educators have already shared so much wisdom, and I'm eager to hear what final nuggets they have to offer. Welcome back to The Deep Dive. We've been unpacking some valuable insights from seasoned educators about the common mistakes first-year teachers make, and now we're ready for the final act.
It's been quite a journey so far. From the importance of asking for help to navigating that delicate balance between friendship and authority, these educators have shared some truly relatable experiences. But beyond those specific mistakes, there's a bigger theme emerging here, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's like these mistakes are actually valuable learning experiences in disguise. If you're not making some of these missteps, you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough or taking the necessary risks to grow.
I love that perspective. It's about embracing the learning process, missteps and all. And that leads us perfectly to the final reflections from these educators. They all emphasize the importance of continuous learning and growth, not just for educators, but for professionals in all fields.
That's such a powerful takeaway. It's not about striving for perfection, but rather about embracing the journey of becoming the best version of ourselves, whatever that looks like in our chosen field.
And that journey often involves setbacks. Remember Steve Sontag's experience with that negative reinforcement experiment? He was dismissed from his position, but he didn't let that define him. He picked himself up, learned from the experience, and went on to have a successful teaching career.
It's so easy to get discouraged when we face setbacks, but his story is such a powerful reminder that resilience and a growth mindset are key. What are some strategies our listener can use to cultivate that resilience in their own life?
One strategy is to reframe setbacks as opportunities for learning. Instead of asking, why me? Try asking, what can I learn from this? Another helpful tip is to surround yourself with a supportive network of people who believe in you and encourage your growth. And don't be afraid to seek out mentors or role models who have navigated similar challenges.
Those are great tips. It's so important to remember that we don't have to go through this journey alone.
Mhm.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the importance of evidence-based practices. How can our listener be more proactive in seeking out and applying research-based strategies in their work?
That's such a crucial question. It starts with a commitment to continuous learning. Make time to read industry publications, attend conferences, and engage in professional development opportunities that expose you to the latest research and best practices. And don't be afraid to question traditional approaches or experiment with new strategies.
It's about being a lifelong learner, always seeking to improve our skills and knowledge. And it's about being open to new ideas, while also being critical thinkers and evaluating whether those ideas are truly aligned with our goals and values.
Exactly. It's that blend of curiosity, critical thinking, and a commitment to growth that will set you apart and empower you to make a real difference in your chosen field.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into first-year teacher mistakes. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the practical tips for asking for help and communicating effectively to the bigger picture ideas of resilience, leadership, and evidence-based practices.
It's been a fascinating conversation, and I hope our listener feels inspired and empowered to embrace their own learning journey, missteps and all.
And a huge thank you to the European Association for Higher Education Advancement for providing such valuable insights and resources. Be sure to check out their website for more great content on education and professional development.
Please don't forget to follow the European Association for Higher Education Advancement on YouTube and social media.